Hello again, this is Mr. Brooks. I'm going to show you how to create your deck of cards. Now, ingeniously, your worksheet for the collections assignment found on the class website. We go down to the collections area, and we look at the worksheet number 5. The introduction video to collections walks through all of the questions that are in worksheet number 5. If you remember worksheet 5, you should have something like this that you emailed to me, or answers to this that you emailed to me. On question 4, write the code to create an array of 100 integers and assign the values from 1 to 100 to the items in the array. I'm going to show you how to do that. This is exactly what you need to do for creating your deck of cards. I'm going to go to an online C# compiler called Online GDB. This is a C# environment. I will put a link to this in the notes of this video, but we're going to create our deck of cards here. So I'm going to say, I'll leave create hello world there. We'll change things around a little bit. When you come here, you saw how I closed the sidebar over here, and that's perfectly fine. You don't need it open. You want to make sure that it is an interactive console when you're doing your assignment, and you'll see why about that in a little bit. So if you remember, we need to create a global variable for our deck of cards. Our deck of cards, think of this main as kind of like your main window thing in the other assignment. So I'm going to create, because of this online compiler world, I'm going to have to declare every global variable as static. So remember, we're going to create the integer array. In the case of the assignment is for 100, but here we're going to do it for just 20 because that's the size of our deck of cards. It's just 20 cards. You can call it cards, you can call it deck, you can call it whatever you want so long as it's meaningful. I'm going to call mine deck. And this is a new integer array of size 20. So that just said I created a deck of cards that is size of 20 cards. Now I'm going to come over here and just format this just for pretty's sake, because I want it to be pretty. All right. So I created a global variable called deck, and that's my deck of cards. If I run this right now, all it's going to do is it's going to display hello world. I'm going to run it. You're going to see down here, it's going to compile the thing. It displayed hello world, and it says it's finished. Press enter to exit the console. Okay. So now I'm going to create my deck of cards. So create deck of cards. If you watched the first video for this assignment, inside your main window, this is where you're going to put this code, create deck of cards. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nod, nod. So the easiest way to do that is we're going to do a for loop, and I'm just going to kind of use a standard thing with for loops. Less than 20 semicolon I plus plus. So this is kind of what we did for that question number 4 in the worksheet, create an array of 100 integers, but in this case it's only 20. Now, I have the number 20 here, I have the number 20 there, and throughout your card game assignment, you're going to be using the number 20 all over the place, or we can just be a little bit smarter about it. We're going to just say deck.length, capital L, deck.length. That means it's going to be 20. So if I ever want to change the size of my deck, I can just come here and say, oh, I want it to be 50 or 100. And you can just do it all in one place rather than finding all the 20s peppered throughout your code. So if you remember from the assignment, I just simply said deck sub I is equal to I plus 1. That is it. That creates your deck of cards. Now you're going to say, well, how do I know that, Mr. Brooks? Well, we're going to print out our deck of cards just for kicks. This is not part of the assignment. So I'm going to do the same for loop that I did before. I'm just going to copy that down here. Right? Wrong. Copy, paste. But instead of filling in the deck of cards with something, I really want to print it out. Well, I'm going to print it out. In this world, because we're only working with text, there's no buttons and windows and things like that. I'm just going to print out the deck sub I. So now I'm going to run this. I will see hello world as the very first thing, and notice it printed out the numbers 1 through 20. But my deck is 0 through 19. That's perfect. That's exactly what you would expect. I'll make this bigger so you can see it. So it printed out hello world, then it printed out the numbers 1 through 20, because that's exactly, and it wants me to press enter to exit the console. That's exactly what we put in there. So we know we got our deck of cards correctly created. Later, we're going to learn to shuffle the cards, and we're not going to do that right now, but this will give you an idea of how to get started. Again, this code, I'm going to show you this code. I can grab this code, and I'm going to come over to Visual Studio. Where do we put global variables? We put global variables up here, but in this world, we don't need to put static in front there. And then where it says create deck of cards, I'm going to take this code for creating the deck of cards, and I put it right there. That is all you need to do to get started with creating your deck of cards, whether you're using Visual Studio or you're going to be using this online GDB compiler, which is what I recommend for everybody that doesn't have Windows or Visual Studio. That will do it for this one. More videos are coming. Stay tuned.